Ladies and gentlemen, Friday night. We're a little late, but hey, technical difficulties happen. But it's another Friday night, 9 p.m. We in effect. This is the Gridiron Flex. So what we talk about the Gridiron Flex, as you can see from the background, you might could tell it's gonna be football related. So I'm joined today by Steve. Steve, what's going on?
Nothing much, to be honest. Glad to join you tonight.
So Steve is an inspiring podcaster. So got him on here, talk a little football, see if we the cut of his jib is, so to speak, right? So you guys help me let me know what you think about Steve here when the episode's over. So we're gonna dig right into it. The first thing we're gonna get into is breaking NFL news. Obviously, last week we didn't do an episode, so got a couple of things that happened last week we're gonna talk about, and then we'll roll into some things for this week. So last week in the NFL gambling rule was changed. So that's going to allow guys like Jamison Williams, who were out for 6 games, to now only they would have only been out like 2 games, so they're going to be able to play this week. So without going back into details from last week, long story is first time that you're suspended is now like 2 games. Second time is 6 games. Third time is when you get into a lengthy suspension. And then once you get to a fourth time, uh, you know, it just continues to build. If you, and that's just if you're gambling on any team. If you're gambling on your team or a game your team is involved in, you're going to be suspended the first time for a year. Well, excuse me, 2 years. And then if it happens again, you're going to be banned for life, Pete Rose style. So the theory to me, the heart of the rule, the reason why the rule's in place the way it is you don't want to punish people who gamble on another sport or other teams outside of theirs the same as you would people who gamble on their own teams. And there's a couple more differences just to clarify for you. If you're gambling on another team and it's not, or another sport and it's not within the confines of your own team facility, then you're fine, or an NFL facility, right? So if you're at home and you're gambling on basketball, NFL doesn't care. If you're in the locker room and you're playing Kansas City and you're betting on another game after the game, the NFL cares. If you're in your own facility, you're betting, the NFL cares. If you bet anywhere on your own game, the NFL cares. And that's where that rule comes into place, especially in your own facility. So just some clarification points, Cliff Notes version of how that works. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on that rule, the rule changes, and how that affects the gambling going forward?
Well, it really shouldn't be gambling in the first place, to be honest, but I definitely agree with this rule. And I think that with this rule in place, that it can help the league much better to see who's gambling and who's not. And if they're gambling, then they're suspended. I really have to agree with this. I just do. Because gambling is the most horrible part in the league. Because if you remember Pete Rose when he decided to gamble, he's banned for life. And just got to be the way it is with the league. And the way this league is working with the gambling, I definitely agree with it.
So I'm going to take the opposite approach. I don't mind if people gamble, but I don't want you to gamble on your team or gamble in your facility like the NFL doesn't want you to. The reason for that being, a lot of people gamble. Pete Rose is suspended forever because he gambled on his own team, which is what you don't want to happen. If you're a football player, you want to gamble on college football, so be it. It doesn't. You can't affect that sport. You want to gamble on hockey, so be it. You want to gamble on baseball, you want to gamble on soccer, whatever. If that's what you want to do. Who cares? But don't do it in a facility, and don't do it in games that your team isn't played in. Anything else? You're a leisure person just like everybody else. If I'm an NFL player, but I'm not on the clock, I'm at home chilling, and I'm watching the Giants and the 49ers play, right? Just two teams. And I say, oh man, this game's getting ready to start. You know what? I think I'm gonna try to win me a couple of stacks on this game real quick. Let me go in and do this real quick. That's the decision you make. That's fine, but don't do it on games that you're involved in. Don't do it in facilities, and you're good to go. If you can't follow those simple rules, you deserve to be punished. They're in place. They're clear. You now know. Like we didn't have a lot of gambling a couple of years ago with this type of thing where it was happening in facilities, or at least it wasn't being monitored. Now that it is, you know, just a test, step. That's all you got to do. All right. And then also last week, we found out that Mara Hamlin was going to play on Sunday. My question was how much he was going to play, if he's going to have an impact, and concern for him with what happened with him the last time he was on a football field, and mental trauma from that, things like that. Uh, haven't heard anything negatively about him playing, so it seems like everything went well for him. But before that game, my thoughts were, oh man, I don't know if DeMar Hamlin should really go out there. But I understand you want to be an NFL player, and the only way you can be an NFL player is if you play in games. So I applaud his courageousness. I applaud the team for allowing him that opportunity once he passed all the proper physical benchmarks to do so. But I'm still concerned for as long as he plays if he gets hit the wrong way again. That's just something I'm concerned about. But kudos to him for saying, hey, I want to be an NFL player. I'm going to continue to be one. Steve, you have any thoughts?
Well, I do applaud him for what he's doing right now to really play. And if you all remember last year, well, he collapsed on the field was the most horrific, horrific thing in sports. Well, everybody stopped and prayed for him, including on the field when the ambulance is taking him away last year. Um, I really applaud him this year for coming back on the field and start playing again. Um, but just got to be extra cautious with him. That's all you got to be. And if he gets injured, you got to be very cautious to see what his injury is.
And then breaking news, we had a couple of trades that happened. We had J.C. Johnson get traded to the New England Patriots. We had Randy Gregory get traded to the San Francisco 49ers. And we had Chase Claypool, get traded to the Miami Dolphins. So for those three things, simple question. Do you think those three moves have an impact on those teams? The other part of the question, what do you see those players' roles being on their new teams? We'll start with J.C. Johnson with the Patriots. What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe he can do good. Maybe. If he can do good with his team, then hopefully that he can have good chemistry with the team. Because the reason why I'm saying good chemistry, because every player needs to have good chemistry with the team. If you do not have good chemistry, then you really shouldn't be on the team.
So for J.C. Johnson, I'll say I like the move because you had a lot of injuries with the Patriots, and they need guys who can perform there. You think about the fact that Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez are both on IR. Judon's pretty much done for the year. Gonzalez will probably be the same, but it hasn't been confirmed as of yet. But these are two guys that were expected to be major pieces of this defense for the season. Without those, bringing in a guy like J.C. Johnson is great because it just allows you another guy that can come in that can maybe make some plays for you and help make up for other players that you're missing. It sucks for the Chargers because you signed this guy to a big money contract. You expected him to be a great piece for you. That just didn't work out. Sometimes schemes don't work for certain players, but there's nothing that they can do about that at this time. All right, so for the next one, Steve, we got Randy Gregory, who's traded to the 49ers. What's the impact of them on the organization? And do you think this solidifies them as the best team in the NFC East? In the NFC.
Well, the 49ers are undefeated, to be honest. Do I really see him doing good with the team? Absolutely. I think that all things will play well for him on the 49ers. I believe that the 49ers might be able to do much well with Randy. I do think so.
Snowman, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tapping in. That invite's still out there, so you want to come on here 1 week and talk some football with me. All right. So for me, I'll say number one, I think it gives them more depth at the defensive end position. It allows other guys to be able to um, have less focus on them because you also have to worry about Randy Gregory. So double team has got to go down. Different things. Scheming has to be done for another guy. So this is another individual that you have to account for. And he's a guy that in his career with the Cowboys before he went to where he was at, I mean, he's a guy that got to the quarterback, made things happen. It just didn't seem to work out for him either. He was going to be cut, but then the 49ers reached out and were able to negotiate a trade, to get him and give up a small bit of draft capital. Gave up a 6, got him back at a 7. So not a lot, but, got a little something back for him on the other end, just besides him being cut and then getting no type of compensation. So I think that was a good idea that worked out well for them. And then also, I don't think that any team is the best in the NFC at this point. I think if you look at the NFC, honestly, you see behind, you know who I'm a fan of, no question about it. But I think if you look right now, the 49ers and the Eagles are who would be considered the two best teams. Both are defeated. So every team that's been put up in front of them, they laid down so far. Dallas, I think you would have to put one step behind. They did have a slip up against, the Cardinals, but other than that, they've looked good in their other games. Behind them, the only other team I could even think about saying could possibly be in that talks would be the Lions. So I don't think it makes them the best, but I think it's another move that makes them more dangerous for other teams that are going to have to play against them. So with that being the case, you always want to improve your team, and I wouldn't mind having Randy Gregory in the green, but that's not how things worked out. All right, so then the last one, Chase Claypool has been moved to the Miami Dolphins. What do you think? Do you think this is his last opportunity at being a quarterback? A wide receiver in the NFL? And do you think he makes a difference on this organization?
I do think will be his last impression with the Miami Dolphins because with the last team he did it really played well. He didn't. Okay. And do I think that this will be his last impression? Absolutely, it will be because he needs to show what he got as a wide receiver. Yes, wide receiver is tough, but you got to watch and see what is the play call to do with. Because if you're not watching, you may not be able to catch a ball, and he might get a interception, which you don't want. So you got to really be on your high alert and have your good impression with the team.
All right, so for me, I think Chase Claypool looks to be a guy that could come in. He's not going to be a starter. He's going to be put in a role that's more comfortable for him, and that's going to be as a 3 or a 4 receiver. He's not going to be an outside receiver. He's going to be in a slot or that 4th receiver that you bring in. He's going to be able to get in this role because one side's Jalen Waddle, the other side's the Cheetah. So you have these type of individuals that you're playing against or with on your team. It's going to help you be a lot better. So I think that this is a guy that can possibly make a difference there. The problem is going to be, is he prepared to make that difference or not? Is he going to go here with a clean slate? He's burned bridge with 2 organizations already. But his best year in the NFL was when he had 2 other really good guys with him when he was in Pittsburgh his rookie year. So maybe that transfers over. We'll see. But definitely, if you cannot get it done with this wide receiver group, with this team, with Tua, then I think you're going to be on your way out the door. He's the big body they need if he works well, if he plays the scheme, and if he focuses and plays basketball, keeps the mental stuff on the side, and just gets out and makes it happen on the field. That's what they're going to need from him. And if he can't do that, I think he's going to be out of the league. All right, so we're going to talk about the Thursday night games from the past 2 weeks. Again, we missed last week, so to roll back and talk about the Thursday game from the prior week as well. So in that game, we had the Detroit Lions put a nice mollywhopping, 14 points, on the Green Bay Packers. We saw that there was no love in the city for the Green Bay Packers as they suffered a loss at home to a surging, and I said it from the offseason to now, effective Detroit Lions team that is the number one team, I think, in the NFC North. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on the Lions Packers game from last Thursday?
Uh, they played well, to be honest. Do I think that they could play much better? Yeah. But I do think that they played well in that game, to be honest. Maybe that they can play much better where they can just play as, but I really do think that they really do good.
And who is they that you're referring to?
The Green Bay Packers.
Well, they didn't do very good, sir, because they lost that game.
I'm sorry about that. I meant the Detroit Lions really played well. But the Green Bay Packers has to show more dominance in that game, and since they didn't, that's why they didn't play well.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the game from this week. And if you've watched my other show, you know I've dubbed this game the Massacre in Maryland. So the defeated Chicago Bears went into Washington and did all sorts of filthy things to the Commanders. All sorts of filthy things. It was embarrassing to watch. The Commanders just didn't look like they were prepared to play an NFL game. And they got beat rather strongly, would be the best word to describe it. So I think we saw the Bears come out and say, we're not doing this again. We're here to win, and we're going to win. I think we saw the Commanders come out after a tough game against Philly, maybe a little deflated. Both teams had the same situation happen, but the Bears were able to double up the Commanders. So we're talking about a nice mollywhopping. The Chicago Bears put a 40 burger on the Commanders. Justin Fields looked great. Of course, DJ Moore dominated. The Bears defense, they were making it happen with who was out there. They were scheming. Eberflus looked like a guy that knows what he's doing. We don't say that much about Eberflus, but he did for this game. And also, they were able to run the ball even after their only healthy back, Khalil Herbert, got hurt, and they had to run with their fullback. Justin Fields was running the ball, but Fields was the reason that Herbert got hurt because he tried to throw an errant pass behind Herbert on the play where he really could have ran and got a first down. Herbert tried to bend back and catch it, twist his ankle up under him, tried to come back in and play after going to the tent, but too much pain, couldn't do it. He tried to run play. He had a hole, but he had to go down because he couldn't. He had to lip off and didn't come back. So hopefully there's no major injury. I haven't had a chance to check up to see if there was any major injury concerns for him with that. I know it was at least an ankle sprain. Hopefully nothing worse. So your thoughts on the Bears and Commanders game from this past Thursday, the Massacre in Maryland, as I have dubbed it.
Okay. The Bears really played well, to be honest. They did. They showed much more who was a better team. Like the Commanders didn't, and since they lost, they are just not playing well. Like with the Eagles against the Commanders, yes, they went into overtime, but the Eagles still won that game. So but I do think that the Commanders were more deflated because they were just. I'm saying that they were just tired and they just didn't want to be out there for this night's game, for that night game.
I mean, you could definitely argue that they did look like they weren't too concerned with the game. I will say I think that the big thing was tiredness. Like that was a tough physical game, and you have to turn around 4 days later and play another game against a Bears team who's a little ticked off because they feel like they gave a game away as well. But their thought process of giving away the game was different. Their thought process was we gave away the game, we're gonna go ahead and try to get another one. Whereas the Commanders just looked fatigued, tired. They didn't show up until a little bit later on in the game. And when you dig yourself a hole against an NFL franchise, this is kind of what happens. I mean, I know a lot of people, including myself, I say, "Oh, Commanders are going to run away with this one," right? And I said, if there's some weird reason the Bears win this game, I had a bye coming up. I didn't have a lot of quarterback options to choose for in one of my fantasy leagues. So I was looking through it. I said, oh, Sam Howell's playing the Bears defense. I'm going to go with Sam Howell. Now, the Bears won that game, but Sam Howell put up very impressive numbers to help in fantasy on a bye week when I had Justin Herbert on a bye. So that did work out for me. But as far as wins and losses, the Commanders' defense has got to show up better than they did. I think the offense has to score more than 20 points. Absolutely. They can't come alive in the second half. But the defense has to hold the other team. If you're giving up 40 points to this Bears team, and we'll see how they continue to move after this, if you're giving up 40 points to this Bears team, it seems like there's a lot of work that you need to do for yourself. So I hope that they can, kind of take care of things. Hope that they can kind of, get back on the right track. And I hope the Bears use this as something to motivate them and push them to be a better franchise or a better team going forward. We all thought the Bears were in trouble. We all thought the Bears were going to get the first pick. And to be honest, they're probably going to get the first pick anyway because they have the Carolina Panthers first round pick. And the Panthers look really, really bad, horrible, atrocious, whatever else you could say. All right, so we'll move on to um, our storylines here. So we got a few comments here. We'll hop on real quick. So Travis says Eagles secondary starters not injured besides Maddox, replaced by Roby. So we should get passing defense up. So Travis, I'll say this. I agree with that, but I'll say this to you, Travis. For me, we don't really have that guy that we feel comfortable with as that third corner yet. And then City Brown's going to be out as well, so we don't have that safety depth. So a little bit concerning, but hopefully we can pass pretty well because we're going to be going against Cooper Kupp and Nakua. They're both going to probably be they're both going to be out there because Cooper Kupp's expected to play, and that was tough to see. But hey, it is what it is. We're gonna have to be ready for it. We're gonna have to be the ones to hope that maybe he's not 100% this week as far as conditioning. Maybe he's on a pitch count, so maybe he's not going to be as dangerous as a lot of people hope. Any thoughts, Steve?
Well, okay, so what I really do think is that the Eagles need to run the ball than passing it a lot. Because if you just run the ball, you'll be able to score more touchdowns. And yes, passing is good too, but I like to see more running with the ball. Because lots of times with passing it, you can get any interceptions which you don't want. And they do good more with running the ball than passing it. That's what I really think.
All right, and Chris, who hops on with us when he has the opportunity to, says the Bears was a money-making bet. Chris, hey man, if you bid on the Bears, salute, and you definitely make some money on that one. But you have been high on the Bears since the off season. Remember, you thought they were good. That Justin Fields was going to be the MVP. He's definitely not. But they did look better than they have in previous weeks. So maybe they're not the worst team in the division. Maybe they're still the Vikings or the Packers. We'll see. All right, so we're going to move on here to our next topic, and that's going to be the Gridiron Rewind. So basically what we're going to do is go back to week 4 and week 3. If there's any specific games that you want to touch on that you saw, if there's any specific plays that you want to touch on that you remember, this would be that time for that. And we normally do that for the last week, but again, we didn't have a show for week 3, so we'll be doing that for week 3 and week 4 games. So anything in those weeks you want to highlight, Steve?
Uh, the Eagles, to be honest. In I think this was week 3 or week 4. It's one of those where they had terrible play calling. It's like, why are you having terrible play calling if you're going to be the best defense out there? And the Eagles have to be doing better at calling the plays. And what I really heard that the head coach, told the offensive coach that he said that, okay, I'm going to do the play calling for this one. Makes no sense. You have the offensive coach out there, so have him call the play. That's what I was hearing from the last press conference. What Nick said. What do you think?
So for me, I can talk about the Eagles all day, but for me, there's a couple of different things. So Desmond Ritter is not an NFL quarterback, in my opinion. The Jaguars showed that they were able to win some games early in the season, the Atlanta Falcons, because they had other players that could step up. And, defensively, they were good. They could run the ball. But when they got in a situation where they really needed to score points, they were not able to. And the reason that they were not able to is because their quarterback play is subpar. The Dolphins are who we thought they were, even after they lost the game. But Buffalo was on a mission. Buffalo needed the Dolphins to lose because the Buffalo got their first loss when they did not really show up week 1. Any team could have one of those weeks against a team that you think they should beat. But Buffalo, really showed that, hey, we're here. We're still going to figure into what happens in our division and in the playoffs and for the Super Bowl. And that's where you want to be at a specific point. Baltimore Ravens 3-1 looked good this past week and the week before that. We're seeing Lamar Jackson play like Lamar Jackson. We're seeing him run the ball, so we're seeing him throw, we're seeing him do everything he needs to do. Also, CJ Stroud is the truth. I touted him all offseason. I said, you look at the tape. I don't care what some stupid test says. You look at the tape. You look at what he's done, and he should have been your number 1 pick to the Panthers. Now, he is an Ohio State quarterback. I know some people have a bias for that, but guess what? He's going to break that mold, and I think Justin Fields is going to help change that narrative as well. Baker Mayfield looks really good against non-Eagles defenses. They were able to beat the Saints. The Saints just kind of gave the game away, but that's not the first time they've done that. Titans got a surprise win over the Bengals last week. Very impressive on them. The Cowboys, I thought they were going to be in a close game. That game was not close. And, the main thing I want to touch on, and I call him the MILF Hunter all the time, Zach Wilson, right? The MILF Hunter, Zach Wilson, played a good game. Probably the best game I've seen him play as a professional player. But what he did was he said, this game was over. They lost. It was his fault they lost, but he took the responsibility this time. So he learned from last time. He said, you know what? I'm the reason we lost this game. I'll take the responsibility. It was on me. I got to be better for my team to win games. When I see a quarterback who came out publicly and said the things he said before about his team, I see growth there. And maybe that's the Aaron Rodgers effect, right? We talk about Aaron Rodgers is there, how the Aaron Rodgers affect him. Oh, Aaron Rodgers didn't make him a better quarterback. Maybe Aaron Rodgers was working on here with him, saying, look, man, you got to understand you're a quarterback. Whenever you're playing, if you're the quarterback, you get the good, you get the bad, you have to take it, and you have to live with it. So I think these are really good things that happened last week, the week before that. I could go back and talk about a lot of those things. Baker Mayfield got exposed by the Eagles defense, but the Eagles defense exposes a lot of people because their front line is so dominant. Several other different things we could talk about from that week. But we'll take the time and we'll move to our storylines and matchups for week 5. All right. So we'll start off here, of course, with the early game. And that's the 9:30 game because again, we do have another game that they want us to wake up very early in the morning to watch pre-game show for two teams playing in London, Tottenham Stadium. And that's the really home Jacksonville Jaguars playing a quote unquote road game against the Buffalo Bills. So when I look at this game, storyline wise, what I see is who is Trevor Lawrence? Is Trevor Lawrence the guy from the playoffs, the guy from the wins this season, the guy who's developing and getting better under a Super Bowl winning head coach of Doug Peterson? Or is Trevor Lawrence just a guy who looked really good in college, who can be a middling quarterback in the NFL, but can he ever be the star? And then for the Buffalo Bills, I'll stay at the same position, Josh Allen. Which Josh Allen do we get? Do we get week 1 Josh Allen, or do we get week 3 and 4 Josh Allen? Which Josh Allen is going to show up to show us who he is? So, in the words of Marshall Mathers, will the real Josh Allen please stand up? And what about you, sir?
Sorry about that. Um, I do think that the Jacksonville will win that game. I do think so because they were showing more dominance in that game. Do I think the Buffalo Bills will win? Hard to say, to be honest. They could win in that early game. They could, but I'm more seeing of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Doug Peterson team, to win that game at 9:30 in the morning.
Okay. So we'll move on to the Texans and Falcons. The Texans, can CJ Stroud continue to show us that he's above expectations as a rookie quarterback? And can he continue to elevate that Texans offense? That defense is going to be solid. D'Amico Ryans is going to make sure that there's no question about that. But can he continue to raise the profile of that offense and his own profile and play well and get the most out of his players on the offensive side of the ball? For the Falcons, how long are you going to stick with Desmond Ridder? How long are you going to let the aptitude that is him as an NFL quarterback pull your team down? That's what I got. What do you got, Steve?
I really think that the team that you were talking about, they really could win, but it all depends how well they do at doing that game. But I do think that they will be able to win.
All right, and next we have the Carolina Panthers at the Detroit Lions. I didn't think that I would be saying this, but I am. If you're playing the Panthers, until they show me otherwise, that's an easy dub. So I'm going to go Detroit. And the Panthers storyline is, what are you going to do at quarterback? Are you going to stick with Bryce Young, thick or thin, or are you going to try to put in his backup Andy Dalton to try to win some games if you want to try to turn this around? What way are you going? And the Detroit Lions, can you come into a game that you should win at home, and can you go ahead and handle business? This is what separates the good teams from the not so good teams. When you go into games that you should win and you win those games consistently, that's when you're starting to move up the tier of teams. Detroit's kind of been right there near the bottom or at the bottom for a while. We started to see some rumblings last year. They're 3-1 now. Can they go ahead and win this game that they should win? What do you got?
I have to disagree with you on that one. I do think that the Carolina Panthers will come out and win that game because I'm seeing more chemistry with that team, and I really do think that the upset in that game would be the Carolina Panthers. That's
So
what I
you
really
mean
think.
you mean to tell me the team that doesn't have an offensive line, that has a quarterback that can't even run a quarterback sneak because he's too small. It's already had one injury, is going to come out and beat a team that has a great offense, who gets after the quarterback, who can cover, and who is going to make him have to make split fast decisions that he's not prepared for. A team who can't run the ball because their line is so bad. And you think they're going to go out and beat the Detroit Lions because they're showing more chemistry?
Yes. Well, you do have to remember this. Anything can happen in the NFL. Anything can these days. Because if they think that, yeah, well, the Detroit Lions are going to win, but I have to side with the other team. I do think that they will win. Yes, the offensive line is not doing good, but I do think that if they can just run the ball, they might be able to win that game.
Right, so yeah, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one, because I don't see a team that doesn't have an offensive line being able to beat anybody until they can make some adjustments there. They haven't done that. They're gonna go out there trying that same line that's been the worst, in my opinion, in the NFL, and it's going to continue, to have that same effect. But hey, if you think they're gonna win, I mean, everybody's got to believe in something. All right, so we'll move on to the Tennessee Titans versus the Indianapolis Colts. Can Anthony Richardson take the next step as a passer? Can the Colts actually put together a solid game plan? And can they get a division win that they need? For the Titans, are you going to start to show up again? The Titans are one of those teams that they show up, they don't, they show up, they don't. That's why they're 2-2. Like, they're literally a 2-2 team in every sense of the word. The Colts, I feel like, snuck a win out. I don't feel like the Colts. I think the Colts are a really bad team, in my opinion. They have won a couple of games, but I think what we will see over the seasons, this is not a good team. So can Anthony Richardson take the next step as a passer is the number one question for this team. And then for the Titans, is Ryan Tannehill going to go out there and continue to do enough to get the Titans wins? Is that defense going to be able to impose its will on the Colts team? This was a Colts defense, offense in the preseason that played against the Eagles' second and third stringers and couldn't really put up a lot of points as starters. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's how I look at the storylines from this game. What do you got?
Well, I think the Falcons are going to win that game.
Titans and Colts.
Oh, oh my gosh. Okay, sorry about that. I do think that the Colts will win that game. Thank you about that. The Colts are playing well, and I do think that they will do good and win that game.
All right, and then we got the Giants and the Dolphins. For the Giants, is Saquon going to play? And if so, can he be effective? And if he can play and if he can be effective, can he be that catalyst that he was for them last year to help them overachieve? Because without him, we see that they can't get it done. For the Dolphins, how do you bounce back from your first loss of the season? You come out, do you punish the Giants? Do you make them submit to you pretty much? Or do you continue to start a free fall that could put you in a lower tier with people seeing for the AFC? What do you got, Steve?
Let me put it this way, and I'll make it nice and good for everybody, okay? If I really think that the Giants are going to win, God bless them. But I have to side with the Miami Dolphins because they are the most good team out there. They're 3-1, and the Giants are 1-3. And the Giants haven't been playing good at all. Because if you remember from the last game, they didn't play good at all. And if people are going to think that, yeah, the Giants are going to win, no. I'm saying Miami Dolphins will win that game.
All right. And next we have the Saints and the Patriots. So I'm going to take the Saints if I was taking a team for this one. And my storyline for the Saints is going to be Derek Carr's back now. Are you going to be able to get on the same page, him and the receivers and everybody get on the same page? And then, if I am correct, and I believe I am, we also have with the Saints the return of the Swiss knife, Alvin Kamara. So now that you got Kamara back, Patriots are reeling. Whack and Cheese is playing exactly as I expected him to. Are you going to be able to right the ship? Are you going to make a decision at quarterback, whether it's him, whether it's one of the other quarterbacks that you have, and what are you going to do moving forward if you lose this game? All right, what do you got, Steve?
I do think that the Patriots are going to win. They're a good team out there, and I do think that they will overcome them in that game.
All right, so we have the Ravens and the Steelers. Steelers are in each other's way. They are. I have not seen the Steelers look this bad in a long time. Now they're 2-2, but just offensively they look horrendous. They won some games, so they put together some decent performances. But overall, I don't see them matching up with the Ravens team. So my storyline simply is: can the Steelers find a way to get that offense together? Because if not, I don't see how they win this game. For the Ravens, can Lamar Jackson continue to take the next steps as a passer in the NFL? We know he can run. We know he has the velocity and everything, but can he become a better passer overall? And that's my storyline for that game. Yeah.
I do think that the Ravens will win. They're good, but I do think that would be a big upset in that game, that the Ravens will beat the Seals in that game.
And then we have the Bengals at 1-3 versus the Cardinals at 1-3. Bengals storyline: T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. Are they healthy enough to play? And if they're not, are you going to take them out or sit them down? For the Cardinals, are they going to continue to play hard? Are they continue to play for their coach and the team? Are they going to continue to be that scruffy? They may not be very good, but that scrappy team that gives you everything that they have and play hard. What do you got?
Yes, both teams are 1-3. So you got to even the factors on this. And my factor would be the Bengals. I think that they will come out and win that game. If they can show how well their offensive line is, then they will win that game. So my pick will be the Bengals.
All right, and then we've got the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm going to say storylines. Can the Eagles be better than they were last week? They live by the mantra 1% better every day. They were not better in week 4 than week 3. Week 4 was terrible from play calling, especially from the defense. And then the one play that Nick Sirianni, all the plays in the game, for Nick Sirianni to override Brian Johnson. One play that he chooses is a run on 3rd and 11 for Kenneth Gainwell. That's his override. So we're going to run the ball on 3rd and 11 with Kenneth Gainwell. And you're actually telling people that's the play you overrid. So can the play calling be better on both sides of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles? Can the execution continue to improve for the Philadelphia Eagles? For the Rams, Cooper Kupp's returning. How does the dynamic with him and Nakua play out now that they're going to both be on that field together for at least a portion of the snaps? Are they going to find enough balls for both of them? Is one going to do well, one okay, both going to do well? What is going to be the dynamic between these two guys now that they're both going to be playing? What do you have, Steve?
Well, my Kenny Green jersey is very good luck, and I will upside with the Eagles on this one. They will come out and win. Yes, the play calling last week was very crappy, and it's like what was I even watching? It's like you could have been better than that, and I do think that the Eagles will win this game and still be undefeated in the NFL.
All right, now we have the Jets and the Broncos. So, storyline for the Jets: can Zach Wilson build upon the good play he had last week? For the Broncos, how many losses is it going to take before the seat gets hot under Peyton, and before Russell Wilson is questioned as should he be the starting quarterback in Denver? What do you have?
Well, you got to think about the factors in this one. Like I said about the last team that was 1-3. Uh, yes, both teams are technically in last place, so I will see the Broncos will win in overtime. That's what I really think.
All right, then we got the Chiefs and the Vikings. For the Chiefs, are they going to kind of get themselves together? The Chiefs are another team like the Philadelphia Eagles. It's to me, it's not necessarily the play calling, but more the execution. Are they going to start to catch the ball? Are they going to start to make plays for Mahomes more as a group? Kelsey saved them a lot, but are they going to, as a group, start to make more plays for, Mahomes? For the Vikings, are you going to run the ball? Are you going to be able to run the ball? Do you care about running the ball? Do you even care about trying to win this year? That's my storylines for them.
I do think that the Chiefs will win that game. I think Travis Kelsey will make some big plays in that game on Sunday afternoon. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and they will be 4-1 for Week 6.
All right, and then we have the Cowboys at the 49ers. So for the Cowboys, my storyline is going to be, can Dak Prescott win this game for his team? The defense is going to be pretty solid, right? They lost a big piece, but I think they have enough other pieces where they'll be pretty solid. But can Dak Prescott be the difference in his team getting a win? And then for the 49ers, can Brock Purdy continue to perform at the level that he has so far this season? Is there going to be like a ceiling that he reaches where he stops, or is he going to be able to continue? You got Steve.
Yes, the 49ers are undefeated, and the Cowboys are 3-1. So you really got to think of who will definitely win this game. Will it be the Cowboys or the 49ers? I would say the 49ers will win and still be undefeated in that game. They got to do better, to be honest. But I'm saying that the Cowboys has to do much way better if they want to win that game. Um, yes, Prescott's been throwing more interceptions than he can, but I'm going with the 49ers. 49ers will win that game.
All right, and the last game for this week, and then we'll talk about the Thursday game as well, is the Packers versus the Raiders. So for the Packers, can Jordan Love get back to his early season success? For the Raiders, is the injury to Devontae Adams going to be something that is a season-long story? What you got?
I will say the Raiders will lose this game. Okay, they haven't been playing that well in that game. I do think that the Green Bay Packers will come out and win in a big upset in that game. That's what I really think. So
Yeah,
I'm going with the Green Bay Packers.
I honestly don't think Green Bay winning is a upset in that game. I think it's more of the expectation. So then we'll go to the Thursday night game. We have the Denver Broncos against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we talked about both of these teams actually a few minutes ago. So for the Broncos, for this game, the storyline is going to be, can they hang in the game? I don't expect them to win the game, but can they hang it in? Can they show that there's improvement? Can they not get waxed in this game? For the Chiefs, can you continue to build toward being that dominant team that you could become at the end of the season? This is not the first time the Chiefs started out with a bad loss and then just kind of slowly crept up the rankings and became a better team. So can they do that again this year would be my biggest question for them.
I think that the Broncos will win that game. Easy game for the Broncos, so I'm going with the Broncos in Thursday Night Football.
All right, so then we have the power rankings for this week. Do you have your power rankings?
I'm going to be honest, no, because I really don't know anything about power rankings, to be honest. But I do. But let me just say this, okay? I think that the Eagles are at number 3 and the 49ers at number 1 and the Cowboys are at number 5. That's what I think in the power rankings right now, because the Cowboys are not really playing well and the 49ers and the Eagles are playing better. What do you think?
All right, so I'll give you my top 10 here quickly. So I've got the Seattle Seahawks at number 10 at 3-1. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at number 9. They're also 3-1. Number 8, got the Detroit Lions at 3-1. Number 7, the Baltimore Ravens, 3-1. Number 6, I've got the Miami Dolphins moving down, of course, big loss, so they're going to be moving down. Number 5, Dallas Cowboys, up a little bit from last week. Kind of headed back in the direction of being the top where they want to be at. Kansas City Chiefs, I have them at 4. The Buffalo Bills, I have them at 3. The Eagles, I have at 2. And then San Francisco 49ers at number 1. So that's what I have in my power rankings for this week. Were there any games that you can remember that was a big shock from you in week 3 or 4?
No, to be honest. What was just a big shock is the Eagles game that pulled off a 59-yard field goal in overtime. That was my shock of the game. But that's what I can think of.
All right, so I'm going to go with, for week 3, the Cardinals beating the Cowboys. It was a big shocker for me. Definitely something that I didn't expect. For week 4, I'm actually not going to go for a specific one. I didn't think there was a huge upset in week 4, but I think that one in week 3 was very big. And of course, if we could count it as part of week 4 because of when the game was played, obviously the Bears win on Thursday night. It's week 5, it's Thursday night game. That was a big shocker as well. So we went through the games for week 5. So you kind of gave us your picks already as well. So we won't need to go through the blocks or anything of that nature. So for Steve, this is your boy Cool McCain. And we are going to be getting off of here for the night. Steve, appreciate you for hopping on. And as I always do, everybody make sure you take 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies. Just because they don't like you doesn't mean they won't like us. Great week. Enjoy your football.